He was a billionaire marrying a supermodel. She was his pregnant ex-wife clearing plates at his wedding. When their eyes met across the ballroom, his perfect life shattered in an instant. What he did next cost him everything, but saved his soul. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the people we love, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and tell me the crystal chandeliers sparkled like diamonds. The scent of 1,000 white orchids filled the air. It was perfection, a fairy tale wedding at the Plaza Hotel. From his place at the altar, Marcus Chen surveyed his kingdom. His tech empire, born in a cramped studio apartment, now worth $3 billion, and beside him stood Isabella Romano, a vision in Vera Wang, her hand delicate in his. She was everything he thought he wanted, beautiful, connected, the perfect trophy for the life he'd built. But then the world stopped. Through the sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, he saw her, Sarah, his Sarah. She wore the stark uniform of the catering staff, her auburn hair pulled back tight, wisps framing a face he'd once kissed every morning. She moved quickly, efficiently, clearing champagne flutes with hands that once painted masterpieces. Then he saw it, the swell, unmistakable beneath her crisp white apron. Pregnant. Sarah was pregnant. The violins faded to white noise. The champagne turned to acid in his mouth. Their eyes met across the opulent ballroom, just for a heartbeat. In hers, he saw a universe of pain, betrayal, and a bone-deep exhaustion that shattered him more than any words could. She looked away quickly, her shoulders sagging, and vanished through the kitchen doors. Marcus stood frozen, a statue in his custom Armani tux, his heart screaming a truth he'd spent 2 years denying. Isabella turned to him, her smile faltering. "Darling, you look like you've seen a ghost." He had, the ghost of his past. And she was carrying his future. He was a broke computer science major with big dreams and empty pockets. She was an art student with paint-stained fingers and a laugh that made him believe in magic. Their first date lasted 8 hours. They talked about everything, quantum physics and Renaissance art, their fears and their futures. For the first time, Marcus felt seen. They were poor but deliriously happy. He coded in the corner while she painted vibrant canvases that transformed their tiny space into a gallery. They ate ramen on the floor, dreaming aloud. His startup, Quantum Systems, would change the world, and they'd travel to every museum she'd ever studied. The late nights became all-nighters. The investor meetings became more sacred than their anniversary. He was consumed, electric, running on ambition and adrenaline. He didn't see the light dying in her eyes. He didn't notice her paintbrushes gathering dust. "I feel invisible," she whispered one night, her voice breaking. He barely looked up from his laptop. "I'm right here, Sarah." "No," she said, "you're not." The divorce was her idea, but he didn't fight it. Too proud, too hurt, too convinced she was the one giving up on their dream. He buried himself deeper in work, met Isabella at a charity gala, a whirlwind of glamour that numbed the aching void Sarah left behind. It was easy. It was safe. Until now, the reception blurred around him. He smiled for photos, his face a mask. He danced with Isabella, his body moving automatically while his mind screamed. He saw Sarah on a bus heading to some rundown apartment. Alone, pregnant, struggling, his child. The timing lined up perfectly. Their final night together 8 months ago. A grief-fueled mistake they'd both tried to forget. "I need air," he mumbled to Isabella and slipped away. He found the staff break room. There she was. Sarah sat alone, rubbing her lower back, a gesture of maternal exhaustion that gutted him. "Sarah," he whispered. She stiffened, turned slowly, the weariness in her eyes magnified tenfold. "Marcus," she said flatly, "you should be with your wife." The word wife felt like a blade. "I saw you, I had to." His eyes dropped to her stomach. "Sarah, are you pregnant?" she finished, bitter. "Yes, Marcus, I'm pregnant." "Is it?" "Don't," she cut him off, her voice rising. "Don't you dare stand there at your wedding and ask me that." She stood, slow and deliberate. "This has nothing to do with you." "Nothing to do with me?" he echoed, disbelief flooding through him. "Sarah, if that's my baby, now it matters," she shot back, years of pain erupting. Where were you when I packed our life into boxes, when I cried myself to sleep in an apartment that smells like mold? You were building your empire, moving on, meeting her. Every word was a dagger. I'm sorry, he whispered, hollow. I was a fool. You didn't lose sight of us, Marcus, she said, her voice softening with heartbreak. You let go, there's a difference. She grabbed her worn bag. I have bills to pay. Please, he begged, catching her arm, the touch electric. Don't shut me out. She looked at his hand, then his face. There's nothing to talk about. Go enjoy your wedding. She pulled away and left him standing under harsh fluorescent lights, the faint sound of violins mocking him. He hired a private investigator. The report arrived 2 days later. Sarah Martinez. Address, a crumbling building in the Bronx between a pawn shop and a bodega. Employment, temp jobs, barista, retail clerk, catering staff, medical records, appointments at a low-income clinic, 8 months pregnant. The guilt was physical. While he closed $100 million deals, she worried about rent. While he dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, she likely survived on instant noodles. He drove to her apartment. The building was worse than the report described. Peeling paint, boarded windows. His Bentley looked obscene on the street. He knocked. After a long moment, the door cracked open, held by a tarnished chain. What are you doing here? She whispered, hand on her belly. We need to talk, please, 5 minutes. She sighed, unlatched the chain. Inside, his breath caught. The apartment was smaller than his walk-in closet, sparsely furnished with second-hand items, but immaculately clean. Her old paintings hung on the walls, vibrant, alive, heartbreaking reminders of who she used to be. An eviction notice was tacked by the door. You're being evicted. Horror choked his voice. She snatched it down, cheeks flushing. I'm handling it. Let me help. How much? I don't want your money, she snapped, eyes flashing with fierce pride. I don't want your pity. This isn't fine, Sarah. You're pregnant, working yourself to death, getting evicted. And what do you care? She challenged, trembling. You only care because this inconveniences you, messes with your perfect life. The truth of it hit like a punch. I need to know, he said quietly. Is the baby mine? Her face crumpled, tears welled. Yes, she whispered. Of course it's yours. The confirmation landed like a freight train. He sank onto her lumpy sofa. He was going to be a father. Why didn't you tell me? Anguish filled his voice. Tell you? Bitter laugh. Hi, Marcus. Congrats on your engagement. By the way, I'm pregnant and can't afford rent. How would that have gone? She wiped her tears. I was going to do this alone. I didn't want your money or your complicated life. I just wanted my baby. He looked at her, truly looked, and saw the strength in her tired eyes, the fierce love she already had for their child, and he felt profound shame. I'm going to fix this, he said, voice hardening with resolve. I'm going to be a father. Her expression mixed skepticism and sadness. You don't just decide to be a father, Marcus. It's not a business you acquire, it's something you earn. She was right. When Marcus told Isabella, her response was ice cold. Write her a check, a big one. She'll sign an NDA and disappear. You'll waive paternal rights. This gets handled quietly. You want me to pay her off, pretend my child doesn't exist? The IPO is in 3 months, Isabella said sharply. A scandal like this, the stock would crash, your investors would flee. Everything you've built would crumble. This is my child. It's both, she interrupted. You can be a father or you can be the man you set out to be. You can't be both. The ultimatum hung in the air. His phone buzzed. George, his lead investor. Ryan, I'm hearing rumors. A gossip blog is running a story about you, your ex, a baby. Tell me it's not true. Marcus closed his eyes. Some of it is. Heavy silence. You need to fix this. The board is spooked. A public scandal could kill the IPO. Kill the company, make it go away. The line went dead. He looked at Isabella's triumphant expression, and for the first time his choice became crystal clear. For years he'd chased success defined by numbers, valuations, other people's approval. He'd sacrificed his marriage, his happiness, his integrity, all for the company. For what? To end up in a gilded cage with a woman asking him to sell his child's future for an IPO? No, he said quietly but firmly. Isabella's eyes widened. No, he repeated, calm settling over him. I won't do it. I won't pay her off. I won't pretend my child doesn't exist. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at Lowe's Angels, the city where he'd made his fortune and lost his soul. Maybe it's time I figured out what kind of man I really want to be. You're throwing everything away, Isabella warned, fury lacing her voice. No, he said, turning to her with profound clarity. I'm finally choosing to keep the one thing that actually matters. The fallout was catastrophic. The story broke. Headlines brutal. Photos of heavily pregnant Sarah plastered everywhere. His investors pulled out. The IPO collapsed. The board moved to remove him as CEO. Isabella served him with annulment papers and vanished. He lost everything. His wife, his company, his fortune. He drove back to the Bronx. Found Sarah leaving with a cardboard box in her arms. The eviction was happening. I saw the news, she said quietly. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, he said, voice raw. It's mine, all of it. He took a breath. I lost everything, the company, the money, Isabella. He pulled out a check, what was left of his savings. This isn't a payoff, it's for you and the baby, no strings attached. She looked at it, then at him, and pushed it back. I don't want your money, Marcus, she said softly but firmly. I want you to show up, be present, be accountable. That's what our child needs, not your money, you, her words hit like revelation. All this time he'd tried solving a human problem with a financial solution, but she wasn't asking for his wealth, she was asking for his time, his effort, his heart. Standing on that cracked pavement, he understood, redemption wasn't something you could buy, it was something you had to build one honest action at a time. The demolition was swift. The reconstruction, slow. Marcus sold the penthouse. Moved into a modest apartment near Sarah. He showed up, drove her to appointments, sat in waiting rooms. The day he heard his daughter's heartbeat on the ultrasound, thump, 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 tears streamed down his face. He helped Sarah apply for artist grants, hired security to protect her from paparazzi, assembled cribs, took walks in the park. Slowly, her guard lowered. She saw his consistency, his humility. He was becoming the man she'd first loved. Weeks later, in a quiet hospital room, Sarah gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, dark hair, bright, curious eyes. When the nurse placed the tiny bundle in his arms, Marcus felt a love so fierce it rearranged his soul. What should we name her? Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. He looked at this new life, this second chance. Grace, he said, voice thick with emotion. Let's call her Grace. Sarah smiled, radiant, beautiful, perfect. He kissed her forehead gently, not passion, gratitude. Respect, profound love for the little girl who'd brought them back from the brink. He'd lost a fortune. But in that quiet hospital room, surrounded by the two most important people in his life, Marcus Chen was finally truly rich. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more real-life inspired stories that remind us what truly matters. Because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what you were always meant to keep.